Well, welcome back all my loyal classic dirt bike followers, and thanks once again for tuning in to my increasingly popular vintage dirt bike YouTube channel. Now, in the last few videos we have been showcasing various classic dirt bikes from the Terry Pickering collection, and we're going to continue that theme by showing you another of Terry's fantastic machines, and this time it's the turn of his beautiful 1977 390CR Husqvarna. Now, this featured machine, although owned by Terry, was once again built by Terry's bike building mate Keith Ree. Now, of course, a very large percentage of the parts used to build this bike came from Terry's mountainous collection of spare parts, and this bike was made up of many of the spares that Terry had lying around in boxes in his workshop. Now, of course, Keith, when he built this bike, he started with the frame, and of course this was completely stripped, inspected, and any repairs needing done were carried out before the chassis was then painted in this lovely silver colour. Now, Keith told me that to completely finish this bike from start to finish it took him about 3 months to complete, although most of its downtime was taken up waiting on the various stages of the bike being completed, like frame painting and engine building, etc., and trying to find all the correct period fasteners. But between Terry's stocks of spare parts and getting parts from Husqvarna spare parts dealers, Keith soon got enough to completely finish this lovely bike. Now, the motor, of course, is a single cylinder 2-stroke 384cc reed valve induction engine. Now, to feed that big 390 engine with its fuel, we have a 38mm Mikuni carb fitted. 6-speed gearbox, of course, mated to a standard wet and multi-plate alloy clutch. Now, no primary chain to connect the clutch to the crank, of course, on these Swedish Huskies. They use the much more sensible option of a gear drive. Now, as I mentioned earlier, a 38mm Mikuni carburetor fitted to this bike. Of course, in the past, these bikes would have been fitted with all manner of different carburetors, but most owners tended to go for these Japanese Mikunis, which were very tunable and very efficient at delivering the fuel to these big 2-stroke motors. Now, of course, Husqvarna used a lot of magnesium in their construction of their machines, mainly to keep the overall weight of the bike down to the bare minimum. Now, of course, in 1978 you could then purchase an automatic version of this 390 Husqvarna bike. Of course, no gear shifter and no clutch, just fully automatic. And as motocrossers go, the automatic version of this bike was certainly up there in the outer limits of high tech when it came to the automatic version of this machine. Now, for 1977, the 390s had the standard air oil spring suspension system on the front, and these bikes had quite long legs of about 13.5 inches of travel with these 35mm stanchions. But overall, the function of the front end was pretty good for its time, and of course there was a bit of scope for adjusting by adding or removing air or messing around with different spring rates and or different weights of oil if you needed to stiffen up this front end. Now, a set of wheels were a couple of the parts that Terry never had to put this bike together, although he did manage to locate these very nice alloy Nordisk wheels from Norway of all places, and I must admit they certainly look the dogs with those King's motocross tyres fitted. Now, these Huskies back in the day would have been fitted with a pair of Trelleborg tyres with the 17-inch wheel on the rear and the standard 21-inch wheel on the front. Now, a fuel tank for Terry's new build was yet another of the used parts that Terry had lying around in his workshop, and of course this was completely stripped, refurbished and then repainted with a new fuel cap and a renovated petrol tap. But of all the motocross bikes from that period, I have to say I think these Husqvarnas had one of the nicer looking fuel tanks with this purple and chrome effect combination. Now, the bike's seat once again underwent a full renovation with the original seat base and foam reused. Now, Evo Max motocross parts then came up trumps with this very high quality seat cover, and they also helped out to supply the tank decals as well. This video was brought to you in association with Wolfsport, the world's #1 supplier for all your off-road and leisure sportswear. Just visit their online website or give them a call for more details.